Eskom supplied uninterrupted power for more than a year, and this achievement was widely celebrated. But in recent weeks and days, the company has been embroiled in a variety of controversies, and it was summoned to Parliament, where the leadership of the company was grilled by members of Parliament. We managed to secure an interview with the CEO of Eskom, Mr. Brian Molefe, and this is how he dealt with a variety of these topics. Dr. Molefe, thank you very much for giving us the time to talk to you about the developments around the Eskom. Not so long ago, we were celebrating the fact that Eskom has gone on more than a year now without load shedding, and everybody was quite happy with Brian Molefe's success at Eskom, of course, with the assistance of your colleagues. But within a short period of time, things turn around. Now it's cold, this cold, Brian, this, that. I said, how? Yes. What happened to load shedding? We were happy with it. Now we've got a coal problem.
Yes. No, we do not have a coal problem. I think the problem is that people saw the name Tegeta amongst our suppliers. And Tegeta and Oak Bay, they have, and the Guptas have coal mines, and they do supply coal. And suddenly they said that the only reason that they can be supplying coal is because Eskom is captured or Molefe is captured. The point that I've been trying to make is that the amount of coal that they supply is insignificant, number one. Number two, we don't have a reason to blacklist them, because if we don't want to do transactions with them, we have to blacklist them. And to blacklist them, you have to give them reasons why they are being blacklisted. Give them an opportunity to respond, and then only blacklist them. And it is an action that may be challenged. So what we were trying to explain the other day in Parliament is that in terms of the Constitution and the PFMA, you cannot take an arbitrary action. People have to come up with evidence of wrongdoing. There must be proper investigation, and they must tell us the real reasons why these people must be blacklisted. But for as long as they are not blacklisted, if they bid to do work at Eskom, we are under obligation to consider their bid honestly.
Let me find out, when you say insignificant contract that they have with Eskom, what do you mean? I'm talking about Tegeta now, in the scheme of things with
the company. In terms of our total supply of coal for Eskom's needs, they supply less than 5%. I mean, the coal that they supply is about 3% of what we do. There are companies, 4 companies in fact, that supply over 70%. And this is a historical, these are companies that have been supplying us with coal from over 40 years ago. But nobody is questioning about that bigger chunk. Everybody's focused on the small portion just because of the name Gupta or Tegeta. It looks like today in South Africa, when you say Gupta, people become paralyzed.
But here's another point, I think, that's been raised around the Tegeta contract to company owned by the Guptas, is the question of the quality of the coal that you're buying from them. The question's been raised about that. And the finances around it, that they were giving advance payments and so on, as if Eskom was helping them shore up their business so that they run a sustainable business when they were just about to close shop. I think that's where the suspicion comes from.
In terms of the quality of the coal is set out in stockpiles. And our scientists go and take a sample from a stockpile, and they test it for quality. Sometimes stockpiles are not of the required quality, and that happens across all mining companies. The only problem is if we then pay for a stockpile that is of the quality that we did not require. Now, what we were explaining the other day in Parliament is that it is true that several companies, including Tegeta, have sometimes had stockpiles that do not have the right quality. But we can show that we have never paid for a stockpile that was not of the required quality. However, having said that, there was an instance when our own people have said that a Tegeta stockpile is not of the right quality. And Tegeta complained and said that is not true. And we then sent that sample to South African Bureau of Standards, and it was found to be of the right quality. And so we then started questioning the way our people function and their impartiality towards Tegeta, and it was a concerning matter actually.
Now, you said that more than 70% of the coal supplies to Eskom come from 4 companies. Yes. And then you said this has been going on for more than 40 years. Yes. The question is, given this era we live in of transformation, of emerging miners, and the immediate, probably easier mining that can be done in South Africa is that of coal, and you have a ready-made, so to speak, company that should be buying up the coal from the emerging coal miners. Why are you not transforming enough to accommodate the increasing number of emerging coal miners?
Because some of the contracts that we have are 30-year and 40-year contracts that we cannot get out of. There are contracts that go well before 1994, and they expire, some of them in 2 years' time, some of them in 5 years' time, some of them in 10 years' time. It is very difficult to touch those contracts because they are contracts that we are obliged to honor. In those instances, actually, there is very little display of BEE having been done. In contracts that have been expiring, people have been with a view to getting new contracts doing BEE. But we have been trying to insist on black economic empowerment in the coal mining industry. And we have been trying to also encourage the formation of small black mining companies to contract with Eskom. In fact, it is not a secret that we have said that we would be reluctant to enter into contracts with coal mining companies that do not have at least 51% BEE.
And do you think that that is having an impact in the mining sector at all? Do you see any activity there?
I think it has, because in companies that are whose contracts are coming to an end, there is actually movement. They do try to get black economic empowerment going.
Now, to go back to the earlier point of Tegeta and the Gupta family and the concerns around it, and the fact that you become the central focus on the matter, is the relationship that Eskom has with Treasury, or the news that emerged recently that Eskom was not making certain documentation and information available to Treasury, thus creating the impression that you were withholding some information for whatever reasons.
Well, what happened there, Tim, is that I arrived here at Eskom in April 2015. At the end of July 2015, the Treasury requested information on coal contracts, including or especially about Tegeta. In July 2015, the Treasury started the investigation. So they requested information that was provided at the time during August. And then in September, they requested some more information, and it was provided. In October, they requested information, it was provided. So we had been cooperating. And then it went quiet. We were expecting to get the final outcome of the investigation. And then in April of 2016, this year, on the 12th of April, the Treasury wrote the letter and attached a 172-page document to the letter, and they said it's the preliminary findings of their investigation. And they said they want the response, but we have to take our response through our board by the 30th of April. So they gave us 18 days to consider the document and take the response to the board. Now, we then wrote back and said it's not possible to consider this document and take it to the board and have the board have an intelligent discussion on the document by the 30th of April. We asked for an extension, and it was granted to June. And by June, we were ready with the response, but our board had not seen our response. In fact, our response went to a board subcommittee in August, and in fact, it was supposed to serve before the board on the 21st of September. However, before the document or our response could serve before the board, there was a newspaper article. The Sunday Times had the whole report, and in fact their angle was that we are refusing to cooperate. What we were simply trying to do is to show that there had been several requests for information that we have complied with, and in this particular instance there has been a request from the National Treasury that the response should go to the board, and it hasn't been until our Minister Lynn Brown, said, okay, just submit it, even though it hasn't been to the board. And we did. 2 days after the newspaper article, we submitted our response, which had been ready, but had just not been to the board, as the Treasury had said it should go to the board.
Well, I suppose the other thing that sort of complicates or confuses the story even further is that several weeks ago, there was speculation that Minister of Finance Pravin Gordhan has been investigated by the Hawks in order to fire him so that you should replace him as Minister of Finance.
Do they say that he was being investigated so that I can replace him?
No. The point was, the whole investigation, or if I recall the way the story has been going, is that Pravin Gordhan has been investigated because he might be fired. In the event he is, he's going to be replaced by you as Minister of Finance.
To tell you the truth, Tim, I don't know anything about that. It's something that I hear people talking about, and I hear people speculating about. It is not something that I am able to comment on. It is something that I know very little about.